Peloton went from a $49 billion valuation to the edge of bankruptcy in less than 2 years. Most people blame COVID. The narrative is clean. Pandemic fades, home fitness fades, company dies. But that's the surface story. The real collapse happened inside their metrics. Peloton optimized for the wrong measurement, and by the time leadership realized what was happening, the math no longer worked. Here's what actually happened, and why understanding this metric error protects any scaling business from the same fate. Peloton's growth strategy was built entirely on customer acquisition. They didn't just spend on marketing, they spent aggressively. Celebrity endorsements, Super Bowl ads, influencer partnerships, massive digital campaigns. Their customer acquisition cost climbed to $400 per subscriber. That's not a number you stumble into. That's a deliberate, capital-intensive strategy. Why focus here? Venture capital rewards growth at scale. Investors don't celebrate profitability, they celebrate new users. More subscribers equals bigger market dominance claims, higher valuation multiples, better fundraising rounds. For a company in hyper-growth mode, that's the metric that matters to the people writing checks. Leadership celebrated this. Each month, they could point to subscriber growth and claim victory. The quarterly earnings calls highlighted user acquisition numbers. Wall Street loved it. The stock climbed. Everything looked correct on the surface. But something was breaking underneath. As Peloton scaled acquisition, their churn rate climbed alongside it. They were bringing in customers at an accelerating cost, but those customers weren't staying. Annual churn hovered between 30 and 40%. That's brutal. Think about that. 4 out of every 10 people who bought your product abandoned it within a year. Each new customer cost $400 to acquire. But the lifetime value, the total profit you'd make from that customer over their entire relationship, was closer to $300. They were spending more to get customers than those customers were actually worth. This is where the math breaks down. At scale, this equation is a death spiral. Every new customer you acquire moves you further into the red. Growth becomes a liability, not an asset. The faster you acquire at a negative margin, the faster you burn cash. Peloton kept acquiring anyway. Leadership had commitment to the growth narrative. Slowing down meant admitting something was fundamentally wrong with the product. Pivoting to retention meant lower headline numbers. So they did what any organization trapped in incentive misalignment does. They doubled down on what looked good in the quarterly reports. The market rewarded them, right up until it didn't. Churn isn't complicated. It tells you one thing. Are people keeping what they bought? If churn is high, your product or service has a fundamental problem. It doesn't matter how good your marketing is. No amount of advertising fixes a product people don't use. Peloton's churn was a warning signal they treated as noise. One loyal customer is worth 5 to 10 new ones. That's not motivational speaking, that's math. A retained customer compounds. They renew their subscription next month and the month after that. They refer friends. Their lifetime value grows exponentially. Retention is cheaper to achieve than acquisition. Keeping a customer costs 5 to 25% of what it takes to acquire them in the first place. But Peloton's model had a fragility nobody was discussing. The hardware plus subscription structure looked perfect on paper. You buy the bike, you're locked in. Except you weren't locked in at all. A 2000 bike sat in living rooms collecting dust after 3 to 6 months. Motivation faded. Injury happened. Life changed. The product stopped being used, but the commitment was gone. They kept acquiring instead of asking why people left. Then came the inventory trap. Peloton overproduced bikes to meet demand targets. When churn spiked during the pandemic's tail end and people stopped upgrading their home gyms, warehouses filled with unsold inventory. Carrying costs destroyed margins. Equipment sat depreciating. Cash that should have been deployed toward retention went toward covering storage and logistics. Forced discounting followed. Suddenly, the premium brand was on sale. That signals weakness to remaining customers. It tells them they overpaid. It creates churn through a different mechanism, perceived value destruction. The ratio that matters in any subscription or product business is this: Lifetime value to customer acquisition cost. Healthy businesses run at 3:1. You spend $1 acquiring and get $3 back over time. Peloton was closer to 101, breaking even on acquisition while burning cash on everything else. When growth slows, that math becomes visible. When it's visible, the company has no runway left. So that's the metric that changed everything for Peloton. Stop chasing vanity metrics like new subscribers. Obsess over who stays. The math is simple. If you're spending more to acquire than customers are worth, you're not growing. You're just burning cash. This is non-negotiable at any scale. Calculate your LTV to KIC ratio this week. If this framework really helped you understand it, go ahead and subscribe for more strategic breakdowns of how major billion-dollar companies collapse.